Banaza was a kind loser who was summoned as a hero, but turned out to be weak and useless. However, when he tames a hot wolf girl, he becomes overpowered and uses his newfound strength to clap everyone, including some wolf kitty. After being summoned, Banaza finds himself surrounded by several mages, and the bishop tells him that he's a hero candidate who's going to fight the Dark Army and liberate their nation from evil. As they assess his abilities, the bishop explains that heroes are summoned as level 1 and receive divine skills and high stats from the gods to aid in their mission. Sadly for Banaza, the gods decided to take a nap during his summon, so all he gets are horrible stats and some basic business skills, which are no good in battle against the Dark Army. Just then, another hero with legendary stats is summoned, and everyone rushes to his podium to suck it up to him, ignoring Banaza like a middle child at the dinner table. Soon after, the Prince Charming is taken to the king, who throws him a giant party while Banaza waits outside, wishing they would send him back home. Later, he learns that he cannot go back the way he came, so to make up for his failure, the king offers him residence in a nearby fortress. After traveling for nearly 3 weeks, he's left outside a forest with a bottomless bag, which has enough food and money to last him a while. Looking through the bag, he finds a cheap sword and uses it to slay the slimes that attack him. His sword breaks after a few swings, but he manages to reach level 2, and all his stats strangely show the infinity sign, meaning that are now maxed out. He then enables the voice guideline and is presented with a ton of new spells he can use now. Afterward, he decides to rest in the forest, but he's told that it's contaminated by a poisonous demon gas. His voice guide tells him to use a purification spell to remove the gas. And even though everything appears normal, Banaza gains dozens of new levels and skills. Back in the capital, the princess approaches the king and tells him that it's cruel to leave the hero in the forest, especially since the Dark Army has a base there. Just then, the messenger reveals that someone purified the entire forest, and the king believes it was done by the other hero with legendary stats. However, he is shocked to learn that it was done by the useless hero who was cast to the north. Back in the forest, Banaza nearly reaches level 400, and since he's banned from living in town, the voice guide advises him to use shapeshifter magic so others don't recognize him. Trying it for the first time, accidentally turns himself into a chick with busty assets, but then decides he's not woke enough to be a woman yet. After getting a new disguise, he uses teleportation magic to return to the capital, but when he tries to return to his own world, the spell does not work. Afterward, he goes around the city looking for ways to make money, coming across an adventurer's guild that works similarly to the one in his previous world. He registers himself under the name Fleo and heads to the notice board to find jobs. That's when he sees a girl asking an adventurer to escort her to the Delaveza forest, the same one he was in earlier. Everyone turns her down, deeming it too dangerous, so Banaza approaches her and politely tells her he'll just teleport her there. Hearing the name of the spell, everyone starts eyeing him, making him realize teleport magic is super advanced in this world. Just then, a blonde pulls out her sword, introducing herself as Balarosa, and calls him out for lying about using teleportation magic. Her squad accuses Banaza of being the Diddy of this world, and since he doesn't want to cause any trouble, he decides to show the girls that he isn't lying. They all gather in a discreet alley, and Banaza teleports all of them to the forest without any effort, much to their shock. Balarosa immediately takes the knee, calling him Sir Fleo and apologizing for being rude to such a skilled mage. On the other hand, the little girl notices that all the poisonous gas in the forest is gone, but before Banaza tells him it was he who did it, the voice guide informs him that the girl is also a demon, and he basically just pulled an Itachi on her entire clan. Hearing this, Balarosa and her squad pull out their weapons, revealing that they heard of a demon who guides adventurers to the forest and hunts them down. At first, her innocent face shows signs of fear, but once she realizes she has no way out, she finally shows them her true form, revealing herself as Fenris of the Infernal Four. As he releases toxic gas around them, the whole squad falls to their knees, and Balarosa explains that the Infernal Four are some of the strongest demons in this world. Since Banaza can't protect all of them at once, he uses teleportation magic to send the girls away. Once he's left all alone, he refuses to die so soon and pulls out all the spells he knows to face the monster. Despite being inexperienced in combat, Banaza uses whatever spell that pops up to evade Fenris' attacks, making her increasingly frustrated. Eventually, he manages to pin her down using gravity magic, and the voice guide suggests he uses subjugation to control Fenris' thoughts and turn her into a slave. However, Banaza is kind soul who is against slavery and refuses to use the spell. As he continues to hesitate, Fenris tries her best to escape his gravity magic, but eventually collapses, accepting that her magic is not strong enough to face him. She asks the guide to take her life, but Banaza refuses, saying he never wanted to fight her in the first place. He then lifts his magic, but Fenris is confused because she thinks humans and demons are supposed to fight till the bitter end. However, Banaza says it's all the same to him, and he can never hurt anyone who surrenders against him, much to Fenris' shock. She then transforms back into her human form, but Banaza suddenly turns around, telling her that she's got the whole stock on display, covering her with his own jacket. He politely tells her that he'll let her go if she stops hunting humans. He then decides to get her some clothes from his bag, but Fenris falls asleep due to magic depletion. Banaza then sets up camp nearby and allows her to sleep inside while he looks at all the spells he's unlocked. Soon after, Fenris wakes up and realizes that Banaza healed her while she was asleep. She is still confused because anyone else in his place would have pumped and dumped her, so to pay him back, she promises to never fight humans again. On top of that, she declares him as her master and promises to dedicate her whole life to giving him moral support during the day and oral support during the night. Banaza immediately backs off, saying he isn't in support of slavery and can't own a life, but Fenris starts making cute faces to change his mind. She even says that she would rather die if she cannot serve him, so Banaza reluctantly agrees to let her stay by his side. Later, he explains that he was summoned from a different world as a hero candidate, but he's got no skills, and he cannot even go back to his own world. He temporarily lifts his shape-shifting magic to show her his real face, even telling her that the people from the castle are after him. He then says he has nowhere to go and no goals in mind, and if she were to follow him, she would be astray as well. Fenris calmly tells her that her species lives for one purpose only, and that is to serve the one they consider their master. She further says it doesn't matter who he is and where he is from because she will be loyal to him for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, in the castle, the king addresses the other hero, asking him for updates regarding his mission against the Dark Army. The hero complains that the forces he had were a bunch of wussies who broke formation when they saw demons and were finished in 2 seconds. He tells the king to be grateful for saving whoever he could before walking away like a sassy queen. After he leaves, the king learns that the hero actually stood at the very end and ran away like a little bicken, while the others fought valiantly till the very end. Outside, the hero frets over the fact that even though his stats are great, he has no skill, which means he cannot fight stronger beasts. Just then, his servant Suya shows up, and the only thing that's going for her is the sheer size of her melons. She invites the hero to a trip to Pound Town, and the guy eagerly goes with her. The next day, Banaza and Fenris walk through the city, and the guy advises her not to address him as master. When a shopkeeper addresses her as Mrs., Banaza thinks it's better for the people to think of her as his wife. Fenris, however, mistakes it for a proposal and agrees to become his wife, saying it's the highest honor for her kind to have a strong husband. Later, Fenris registers in the guild under the name Reese and gets an accessory similar to the one Banaza has. Getting all shy, she explains that in her kind, the couple usually swallows the bones of a prey they hunt together to celebrate their marriage, and this reminded her of that. Afterwards, Banaza advises her to stay in disguise and try her best to act as humanely as possible. Just then, the guild lady informs everyone of an urgent request, revealing that a large group of psycho bears has been spotted just north of here. With the price 10 times that of normal, Fenris asks Banaza to take the quest, but he thinks he's not strong enough. To prove that he is strong, Fenris takes the quest herself, and they teleport to where the bears are supposed to show up. As Fenris gets moist over the thought of fighting alongside her master, they hear a scream and rush to see Balarosa and her knights surrounded by some bears. When one of her knights gets overwhelmed by a bear, Banaza uses a lightning spell to take it down, along with the rest of them. As the girls watch in shock, Banaza finally appears, and they recognize him as Sir Fleo, the guy who saved them earlier. After thanking him for saving her again, Balarosa asks him about Fenris, and Banaza tells her she's his travel companion. This makes Fenris sad because she wants him to introduce her as his wife. Just then, a bear ambushes her out of nowhere, but a mere look into her eyes is enough to make it surrender. As Fenris and Banaza discuss making this bear a pet, Balarosa and her squad watch in horror because these beasts are supposed to be vision animals. Banaza then puts a restriction spell around the bear to stop it from attacking humans, followed by shapeshift magic that turns it into a cute little fox. Afterward, Balarosa takes them to her place, where they all introduce themselves one by one. Her squad consists of Blossom, Bilary, and Bolano, and they all request Banaza to teach them how to become stronger. They tell him that the army led by the hero was wiped out by the Psycho Bears, and the hero refused to lead another attack until the kingdom provided him with better equipped warriors. Thus, the king ordered every knight to level up by defeating at least one Psycho Bear, but they are not strong enough to do so. Hearing all this, Fenris suddenly gets jealous and a dark aura surrounds her, but Banaza calms her down by telling the girls that she is actually his wife. The girls back down because they don't want to meddle in his personal life, but Fenris suddenly changes her mind and tells Banaza to teach the girls how to fight. After he agrees, the girls ask him for one more thing, a room in his house so they can be close to him at all times. Before he can answer, Fenris agrees to let them in, saying they'll only need one room anyway since they're a couple. Meanwhile, a cat demon named Olimi reports to the Dark One, revealing that their camp at the Delaveza forest was completely annihilated by a purification spell. Intrigued by the person who cast it, the Dark One orders her to capture the culprit. The next day, Banaza wakes up to find Fenris sitting next to him, pretending to be his wife. He recalls how last night she wanted to get her V-card swiped, but when the guy refused, she got all sad. Thinking he hates her, he explained that they cannot skip the honeymoon phase, and it's best if he sleeps in the hall. But she reminded him that the others will get suspicious. She then helps him get out of his sleeping clothes, but Balarosa enters the room at the worst time, only to run away, apologizing. Later, Banaza decides it's time to train the girls, so he sets them up against a wild boar to toughen them up. But as soon as the beast charges at them, Balarosa panics and runs away. Luckily, Blossom steps in and stops the boar with a strong swing of her sword. Fenris quickly tells Balano to put up a shield in front of Blossom, and she does just in time. After that, Bylary steps up and fires her arrow, but her aim is so off that the shot barely scratches the boar. Things get worse when Balano's magic runs out and the shield vanishes, allowing the angry boar to chase them again. As Banaza watches the girls scream like they're in a haunted house, he tells Fenris that building a harem of certified baddies is way more realistic than turning these walkingals into warriors. Later that evening, as Banaza brings comfy beds for the girls, Fenris calls everyone to dinner, proudly serving raw meat like it's a gourmet meal. Banaza stares at the plate in horror, but politely tells her it would be better if the meat were cooked, but she likes it raw, like your mom. He offers to help, and Balarosa joins him in the kitchen. Before long, they prepare a proper meal that actually looks edible. The girls are surprised by how good the food tastes and assume magic was involved, but Banaza tells them it's all thanks to Balarosa. Fenris, on the other hand, stares at the salad with suspicion and says only weak beasts eat grass. Banaza convinces her to try it, and after one bite, she quietly admits it's good. The next day, they take a wagon full of dead boars into town and deliver them to the guild, catching a lot of attention from everyone. While waiting, Fenris asks to explore the town, and Banaza agrees. Just then, a demi-human named Leolith approaches Banaza and says he needs to speak with him privately. Banaza follows him into an office where he's offered tea and told that the king has heard of his achievements. The king wants Banaza to help the hero and become an honorary knight in return. Banaza listens but casually declines because he'd rather spend his mornings waking up to Fenris going throat goat on his sausage. As he steps outside, Banaza finds Fenris looking roughed up. When he asks her what happened, she insists everything is fine. What she doesn't tell him is that she signed up for a cooking class and caused a kitchen nightmare. That night, the hero, surrounded by his harem of pick-me thoughts, learns about Banaza's heroics and decides to make him his right-hand man. A month passes, and Banaza is still turning down offers from the knights sent by the king. Fenris complains about how annoying they've been and offers to scare them off, but Banaza says it's not necessary. Later, they find Blossom is working hard in the field with their pet bear side, and while Banaza praises her effort, he wonders if she'd be stronger if she put that energy into her combat training instead. At the same time, Fenris finds Bylary practicing archery in the woods but tells her to aim at something that isn't a tree. Bylary refuses, saying she could never hurt any animal because they're all too cute. Later, Banaza finds Balana resting under a tree. He gives her a magic ring that boosts her energy and tells her to test it later. As he walks away, she tries to move the ring to her ring finger, but Fenris suddenly appears and threatens to cut her finger off if she dares. They're interrupted by a scream from Balarosa, who's getting attacked by a giant caterpillar. Before Banaza can jump in, Fenris slices the creature in two and scolds Balarosa for pretending to be weak when she could easily handle a C-rank monster. When she accuses him of trying to win over her supposed husband, Balarosa is left speechless, and none of them notice Olimi watching them from the bushes except Fenris. That night, Fenris surprises everyone with a dinner full of delicious, fully cooked food and admits she's been secretly taking cooking lessons. She also learned that a way to a man's pants is through a well-made curry, which is why she went the extra mile to learn it as well. As she cuddles with Banaza, Olimi watches with horror, wondering how the Dark Army's bravest warrior turned into an average housewife. Just then, Fenris shows up behind her and invites her in for tea. During their chat, Fenris jokingly says she's married to Banaza, which shocks Olimi. She tries to read Banaza's power but fails, which only makes her more curious. They talk about the Delaveza forest and the lack of magical beasts there, and Banaza casually says he used a purification spell on it. Olimi almost chokes on her tea and accuses him of eating Fenris' brother, who had been stationed there. Fenris tells her to shut up and reveals that her brother was part of the Dark One's Infernal Four, and if he died that easily, it was his own fault. Banaza is surprised Fenris never mentioned it, but she says it didn't matter because she chose to be with him. Suddenly, the rest of the girls show up with horrified faces, having overheard everything. Ulimi doesn't care and thinks to herself that Banaza is a danger to the Dark Army while Fenris is a traitor. She challenges him to a mock battle, and even though Fenris warns him not to, Banaza accepts. Outside, Ulimi charges at him with her cat venom spell and follows up with several sneaky attacks, but Banaza counters them all. He then traps her using a spell called Crucifixion, and after struggling to break free, she gives up and walks away defeated. The next morning, Banaza apologizes to the girls for keeping Fenris' identity a secret and says they can report them to the castle if they want. But the girls say they'd never do that because both of them have helped them so much during the last 30 days. Just then, they hear a commotion outside and find Ulimi standing with a group of dragons. She tells them to surrender, but Banaza is more excited than scared because he's also a Game of Thrones enthusiast. When she commands the dragons to attack, Banaza wipes out half of them with a single lightning spell, leaving Ulimi in shock. When the rest of the dragons flee, she runs after them. As they leave, Blossom says she wishes she could have defeated a dragon to earn the title of Dragon Slayer. Banaza says he can help and tells her to throw her hoe. When she does, he uses magic to boost its speed and strength, and it hits a dragon right in the head, killing it. Blossom checks her status and screams with joy when she sees the new title. The rest of the girls beg Banaza to help them get the same title, but he tells them all the dragons are already gone, which leaves them disappointed, especially Balirosa. Meanwhile, none of them notice that the Dark One himself has been watching through a magic orb. He's impressed that someone so ordinary looking can use spells even the hero can't, and he decides it's finally time to pay Banaza a visit. Later, Banaza puts barriers around their house so they would know if anyone uninvited enters the premises. Fenris vows that she will take it upon herself to beat Ulimi if she bothers them again, but just thinking about her makes her angry. Banaza, on the other hand, feels bad about the fact that he yeeted Fenris' brother, but he decides to keep it to himself. Meanwhile, Blossom keeps checking her stats, still in awe that she's now a dragon slayer. The others gather around her, and Balana jokes that her hoe has officially become a legendary dragon-slaying weapon. A moment later, they notice Balirosa quietly walking away, and when they ask where she's going, she lies and says she's heading out to hunt. In reality, Balirosa is just feeling down because she didn't earn the Dragon Slayer title. She doesn't want Blossom to think she's bitter, but she's upset since the title could have helped her restore her family's lost nobility. As she walks, lost in her thoughts, a strange man approaches and asks for directions to the house. He says he's an old friend of Fenris, but Balirosa draws her sword, suspicious that he might be from the Dark Army. The man admits he is, but claims he has no bad intentions and just wants to visit Fenris. After he promises to leave right after, she lowers her sword and agrees to let Fenris know he came by. Before he walks off, she asks for his name, and he tells her it's Gozel. The name sounds weird to her, but she doesn't get time to think about it because Banaza and Fenris suddenly show up. Looking worried, she tells them what happened, and to her surprise, they say the man she just met isn't named Gozel. His real name is Kol, the Dark One himself, and Baliros wets herself thinking that she raised her sword to the biggest threat known to mankind. The very next day, Kol visits their house and is greeted by Banaza and Fenris, who calmly invite him inside for tea like he's just another neighbor. As they sit together, Gaul asks Banaza to join the Dark Army, but he politely declines. Gaul asks him why he's not joining the king's army either, and Banaza says it's because he's not from this world and has no intention of interfering with its matters. Gaul admits that the war has been going on for nearly 500 years, and no one from that time is alive to tell why it started. All he knows is that the first Dark One was someone like him who came from a different world and tried to take over this one. That person was accepted by demons as their leader because demons were oppressed by humans at that time. The war continued because both factions wanted to rule the world, but after 12 generations had passed, he himself lost interest in such things. Kol then powers up, saying that he does have a duty to protect his kind and can't let them roam around freely, but Banaza just sits there unfazed and tells him again that he's not interested in picking sides, whether human or demon. Eventually, Kol gives up and leaves, but not before saying he'll be back to try again. After he leaves, the girls check in on Balirosa, who is in shock after witnessing the Dark One's power firsthand. The following morning, Balirosa walks into the dining room only to see Kol having breakfast with Banaza and Fenris like they're besties. He invites her to join them, but she freaks out and runs off, saying she's not properly dressed. For the entire week, she avoids Kol like the plague, running away every time he visits, which is every single day. What they don't know is that a royal soldier is secretly spying on them and sending regular updates to the king. Once the king hears that a demon has been visiting Banaza, he gets furious, thinking he's sided with the Dark One. Just as he's about to send troops to deal with the traitor, the princess tries to speak up. She tells him that there's no actual proof Banaza is siding with demons and suggests they at least talk to him first. The king, of course, shuts her down, saying she doesn't understand how to rule a kingdom. Right in the middle of this mess, the hero struts into the throne room and demands that the king give him some soldiers so he can go punish Banaza for not being patriotic enough. Meanwhile, Olemi-Nas advises the Dark One not to visit Banaza so frequently because it's not safe. He tells her that Banaza is far more understanding than the current king, and if they can win him over, it'll be good for both kinds. She then asks him when they will attack, and he tells her to hold on to her horses. Back at home, Banaza is working on a shield made from dragon scales when Fenris walks up to him. Since they're alone, she gently asks if his decision not to fight has anything to do with her being a former Dark Army member. Banaza shakes his head and tells her it's not about that, it's that he just doesn't want to fight anyone unless there's no other choice. Fenris is moved by his kindness and holds his hand, but before they can say more, there's a knock at the door. Fenris wonders if it's Gaul again, but when they open it, it's the hero with his army of clowns. The hero tells Banaza that he knows about the demon visits and accuses him of betrayal. He threatens to take his life unless he agrees to be his subordinate. When Banaza doesn't react, the hero assumes he's scared. Banaza calmly tells him he's not interested in working for him or anyone else, but this makes the hero furious and he draws his sword, calling Banaza a traitor. He also says he's going to arrest all the girls too, unless they help convince Banaza to side with him. This really ticks Banaza off, but instead of starting a fight, he decides it's better to set up camp elsewhere. He tells Fenris he doesn't want to risk the girls getting hurt, but the girls beg to come with him, saying that they were always taught demons are evil, but living with Fenris has given them a new perspective. After they've said their piece, Banaza activates his teleportation spell, and in an instant, the entire house, the girls, and even the fields disappear right in front of the hero. He just stands there in disbelief, unable to understand how a commoner like Banaza can use such advanced magic while he can't. While he's still processing the humiliation, a soldier suddenly points out that Joel has arrived. The moment the hero spots Gaul, he loses his mind and orders the soldiers to capture him. Gaul, on the other hand, mistakenly thinks that the hero is the one who made Banaza disappear. He snaps, goes full rage mode, and sends a message to his Dark Army. He tells them to prepare for war and show the humans what the Dark Army is really capable of. Meanwhile, Banaza and the rest arrive at the west of the capital, and Banaza assures everyone that no one will find them here, much to Balarosa's relief. Fenris, happy with the fact that they are all safe and together, decides to cook them a nice meal, unaware of the war that is about to break out in the capital. Days after Banaza and the girls leave the hero and his army behind, the Dark Army begins attacking human strongholds across the north as they push toward the capital. When the king hears the news from one of his soldiers, he demands to know what the so-called hero is doing to stop it, and the soldier informs him that the little wuss is hiding in his chambers. Furious, the king orders the soldier to drag him out. After he leaves, the king's advisor suggests that the only way to slow the demons down is to cast a large-scale purification spell. The king hesitates at first, but eventually agrees after his council insists it's the only option. Meanwhile, another demon named Greenel arrives with the news, and Gaul immediately orders his army to retreat just in time. When Olemi-Nas argues that they shouldn't because they have the upper hand, he tells her that the humans are about to use purification. As expected, the king and his top mages cast the powerful spell and successfully wiped out the toxic gas called Melicium that the Dark Army had released. Far away in their peaceful new town, Banaza comes home to find Fenris waiting with a warm smile and a hug, something losers like y'all will never experience. She asks if he'd like to taste her cookie for dessert, but Banaza says he'd like to have dinner first. Later, as they sit around for tea, Banaza tells the rest that he's exploring shops to sell stuff and make money. Blossom and Bilary tell Banaza that they want to help out financially. Blossom hopes to sell her farm produce in the market, while Bilary wants to raise horses for people who need carts pulled. Banaza praises them both, but Balirosa and Bolano feel useless since they haven't found a way to contribute. Following her alpha wolf instincts, Fenris quickly reassures them that they don't have to worry, and Banaza agrees, telling them to just keep training and helping around the house. Back in the capital, the spell takes a heavy toll on the kingdom's mages, leaving most of them sick. On the bright side, the spell will last 3 months, and no demon can come near the capital during that time. Even the king ends up bedridden, so Princess Elizabeth steps up to lead in his place. One of her first decisions is to strip the hero of his title since he's proven to be completely useless. When the advisors ask how they'll defend the kingdom without a hero, she tells them to summon the Oracle instead. Meanwhile, the disgraced hero is kicked out of the castle and swears that they'll beg him to return when the Dark Army comes knocking again. That night, while Banaza and Fenris are in bed, the guy feels grateful for everything he has and thanks Fenris, saying it wouldn't have been possible without her. While he's talking, Fenris falls asleep, and Banaza realizes that he's lucky to have such a peaceful life. The next day, the girls decide to take care of the house chores so Fenris and Banaza can go out on a date. Banaza is shy at first, but Fenris drags him across the city, and they both engage in different activities, having a good time overall. Later, they go through the market, and Banaza asks her to pick anything she likes as a gift from her, which makes her really happy. After looking through several stalls, she comes across a shop selling accessories that catch her eye. Banaza decides to get her a brooch that matches her eyes, and she happily accepts it. That night, she returns home and continues staring at the brooch, and seeing her act so cute makes the girls realize she had a great time today. However, they feel a little jealous because they're going to die virgins at this rate. That night, while Banaza is asleep, Fenris cuddles up to him in her sleep, which makes him flustered. The next day, the hero and his pick-me Suya sneak into the castle treasury, desperate to find something that will help him become stronger than Banaza. As the hero curses Banaza out in his head, a mysterious voice calls to him, asking if he wants power. He follows the voice to a hidden room, where he finds a sword lodged in stone. The voice promises to grant him any wish if he pulls the sword free, so he eagerly yanks it out and gets blasted by a whirlwind. When the air clears, a woman named Hia appears. She introduces herself as a low-budget genie who controls both light and darkness, and says she'll grant him 3 wishes for freeing her. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and her advisors meet with the Oracle Ashura and ask her how they can protect the kingdom once the purification spell wears off. Before the Oracle can answer, magical collars suddenly appear around everyone's necks, which makes everyone panic. Elizabeth, keeping her composure, quickly figures out what's happening and orders the guards to head to the treasury. The Oracle then explains that the collars are part of a curse known as the Collar of Sacrifice. She reveals that Hia is the one who placed them there, and if the person who made the wish doesn't fulfill it, the collars will take everyone's heads in exchange. Elizabeth also adds that long ago, the king made a wish to the same jinn to defeat the Dark One, which led to the deaths of half the living creatures in the land. That's why Hia was sealed away, and she's remained there ever since. Everyone is horrified, but Elizabeth stays calm and asks the Oracle to read the cards. The Oracle tells them that their only hope now is to find the true hero, the one who's already been summoned. The advisors immediately realize she's referring to Banaza and suggests sending the army to find him. But Elizabeth says that's a terrible idea since the troops are needed to protect the kingdom. Instead, she offers to go herself because only a cookie with plot armor can control a grown man like that. Back in the countryside, Banaza manages to strike a deal with a merchant who's interested in buying his dragon shields. He also figures Banaza was the one who brought tons of dragon meat to the city, but he tells the man to stay quiet about it. As Banaza builds his connections, Fenris and Balirosa watch proudly from outside, and Balirosa says she wishes she had a man like him. Fenris immediately gets possessive and tells her she has goal, which terrifies her. After Banaza finishes up and walks outside, he thanks Balirosa for introducing him to the merchant. As they walk home, Fenris says she's proud of him for making things work, but she also desires to spend more time with him. Just then, his voice guide warns him that a djinn is heading toward him. When he turns, Hia is standing right there. She announces that the hero's wish was for her to eliminate Banaza, and she's here to make that happen. As she lifts her hand to strike, Fenris jumps in front of him and takes the hit, which injures her seriously. Fenris falls into his arms, but Hia doesn't stop there and continues launching more spells toward Banaza. But before they can do any damage, a barrier forms around him. Fenris and Balirosa. Banaza tries to heal Fenris, but his voice guide tells him that her injury is too serious for basic healing magic. Hia attacks again, sending out an even stronger spell, but the barrier still holds. Now aware that the threat is far more serious than expected, Banaza prepares for what comes next. Burning with rage, Banaza's mind starts flashing with all the memories they created together. From the day he first met her, to taking her on a date, to even learning that he was responsible for eating her whole tribe. Every happy moment, every laugh, every quiet second shared with her pushes him forward as he promises to make her pay, promising to make Hia pay. He casts a time reversal spell to undo Fenris' injuries, and storms toward Hia and punches her right between the eyes. As Hia questions his audacity to lay hands on someone as powerful as her, Banaza casually walks up and stomps on her face, telling her to shut her mouth. She tries to stop him with a spell, but Banaza cancels it instantly and gives her a proper housewife treatment. Hia then checks his stats, only to learn that all his skills are infinite. Banaza keeps going, not holding back, throwing hit after hit as Hia struggles to defend herself. Meanwhile, Fenris slowly wakes up and sees Banaza fighting for her, looking more daddy than ever. At first, she gets moist seeing how strong he looks, but the feeling fades as she realizes he's abandoning everything he believes in just to protect her. Banaza is still unaware that Fenris is awake, lifts Hia by the throat as she cries and begs for her life, but he refuses to show any mercy to the person who took Fenris' life. Just as he's about to finish her off, Fenris throws her arms around him from behind and begs him to let go. She sobs into his back, telling him that if he throws away his values because of her, she'll never be able to live with herself. Her voice snaps him back to reality. He drops Hia and turns to confirm she's really alive, relief flooding his face. Fenris tells him that she's really okay, and he embraces her as tears roll down both their eyes. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and her troops arrive at the edge of town through a teleportation spell. She apologizes to the mages for putting them under so much stress, but they tell her not to worry as they've sworn loyalty to the kingdom. She then tells his men to locate Banaza, but before they can move, the collars around their necks crumble to dust. Elizabeth realizes something's gone wrong with the hero's wish and starts to wonder why Hia didn't fulfill it. Back in the royal treasury, the king's men wait outside, asking the hero to surrender before it's too late. The hero realizes that the djinn must have failed her task, but suddenly, black smoke begins to pour from the cursed stone where the hero pulled the sword. Suya is suddenly possessed by a spirit who changes her outfit for some much-needed fan service and introduces herself as Damalinas, the Grand Magus of Midnight. Before the hero can react, she casts a spell and transforms him into a monstrous version of himself. The possessed hero blasts out of the treasury, with Damalinas riding on his shoulder. Her goal is to erase the royal family and punish the nobles who helped seal her a century ago. But at the top of the stairs, she notices the remnants of a teleportation circle and immediately sends the hero after Princess Elizabeth, wanting to begin her revenge with her. Back in Banaza's town, he heals Hia, who wakes up and is stunned to be alive. She asks why they saved her, and Banaza calmly says it's only because Fenris is still breathing. Balarosa asks what they plan to do with her, since someone that powerful can't just be left alone, but Banaza suggests locking her up again. Still, he adds that sealing her might not work forever since she could always trick someone else into freeing her. Hia is shocked that he knows this and asks how, only to learn that Banaza used memory projection magic to peek into her past. She's stunned that a human could use such a skill because such magic is restricted to her kind only. As Banaza starts thinking of a solution, Fenris steps in and says they should let Hia work under Banaza directly. He hesitates, pointing out that Hia nearly took her life, but Fenris says she didn't defend herself properly and doesn't blame her. After a pause, Banaza offers Hia his hand and tells her she can stay if she swears never to hurt anyone again. Hia, touched by the lack of hate in Banaza, takes his hand and swears loyalty. Banaza even apologizes for beating her senseless earlier, but it kinda made her wanna bend over for him, much to Fenris' jealousy. Looking around the wrecked town, Banaza considers using time magic to fix everything, but Hia warns him not to. She explains that time spells are risky because they desynchronize the ones outside the radius of the spell, and only a djinn can use them safely. When Banaza asks how he's able to use it, she reveals it's because he has infinite skills, which grant him Epiphany, a power that lets him copy any spell used against him. Understanding the risks, Banaza switches to using his Bob, the builder magic, to restore the town safely. Fenris' understanding of the risk he took to save her, and she falls in love with him even more. Later that night, Banaza introduces Hia to Blossom, Alano, and Bilary. The girls freak out at first, terrified of living with a djinn, but Balarosa calms them down and reassures them it'll be okay. That night, Banaza is sitting alone in the living room, regretting beating Hia so mercilessly. Just then, Balarosa shows up to check up on him, and he apologizes for making her see this side of him. Balarosa understands he had to do it to protect them, and the guy tells her he doesn't understand how to use his power. Balarosa dives into her own issues, saying how she doesn't even know who the enemy is, so she doesn't understand why she wants to become stronger. Despite the paradox, she is still grateful to live with him and Fenris. Later, Banaza walks into his bedroom and finds Fenris sitting on the bed with a heavy look on her face. He asks what's wrong, but before she answers, she pulls him onto the bed and pins him down. She asks if he plans to return to his world and leave her behind now that he has all these powerful spells at his disposal. Banaza is shocked, so she explains that he can now use djinn magic, which means he can go back to his world anytime he wants. As tears fill her eyes, she cuddles up with him and tells him to take her with him wherever he goes. Understanding her pain, he tells her that everything and everyone he loves is in this world, and he has no intention of leaving. Then he asks if she wants to be his real wife, adding that nearly losing her made him realize how much she means to him. Fenris tells him that to her. She's always seen him as her husband. She also tells him that she was always taught to live as a pack leader, but meeting him has made her realize that life is not just about fighting. Hearing that, Banaza kisses her, and the two begin to get closer. Lost in the moment, just when things start getting heated, they suddenly hear a voice and turn around to see Hia, standing at the door watching them like a total weirdo. Banaza, annoyed, tells her to leave, but Hia insists that as his servant, it's her duty to be by his side at all times. She also tells them not to be embarrassed because clapping is a natural part of life, but this ticks both of them off even more. The next morning, the princess goes around town, asking everyone she meets if they've seen Banaza, but no one seems to know where he is. Meanwhile, back at the house, Fenris serves a well-made breakfast to Banaza and the girls and reveals Hia helped her. They're surprised she can cook, and Hia proudly says she wanted to embrace being a housewife after Banaza treated her like one by beating her up. As they settle down to eat, Fenris reminds Hia to handle the laundry and a few other tasks once they're done. That small request makes the rest of the girls feel a bit awkward, and they start to wonder if they're just deadbeats freeloading at this point. Right after the meal, Blossom rushes out to her field and throws herself into farming with more energy than usual. Bilary also heads straight to the stables to check on her horses, determined to prove she can pull her weight too. They both worry that if they slack off even a little, Hia might take over their roles. Belano, who doesn't have a specific job outside of magic, stays in her room, quietly wrestling with self-doubt. Her father and brother are strong mages, and she left the knights before she could be like them, which she regrets a little. Although she's pretty weak, Banaza has been super patient with her slow progress, which makes her happy. Then a sudden scream from outside breaks her thoughts. She rushes out and finds Bilary already at the doorway. They both look out to see Blossom's field getting trampled by a large, out-of-control magical horse. When the horse attacks them, Belana steps forward and raises a barrier spell, stopping the creature from charging at them. Just then, Balarosa arrives and explains that she brought the horse home because she couldn't bear to slay it. Unfortunately, it went wild the moment they got back, which is quite odd. Hearing this, Bilary instantly realizes the problem and calls out to Saib, telling it to revert to his original rabbit form. The horse settles down right away, and Bilary grabs a shovel and some rope, ties them together, and tosses it at the beast, who bites down on it, letting her hop onto its back and take control. Once the beast is fully calm, the girls praise her skills, calling her a brilliant horse handler, sitting confidently atop the now docile creature. She asks Balarosa if they're allowed to use the extra land around their property for training, but Balarosa says they'll need to run it by Banaza first. Meanwhile, in town, Banaza and Fenris go around town doing business, while also enjoying some lovey-dovey time as a couple. Later, Banaza does business with the merchant, having just delivered another batch of dragon scale vests, while Fenris waits outside, getting moist over seeing him work. Suddenly, the sky turns dark, and an eerie presence fills the air as Damelina's and the hero, now a monstrous puppet under her control, descend from the sky. Townspeople scream and run for cover, but Banaza, Fenris, and the princess, who's still nearby, remain in place. Damelina wastes no time and targets the princess directly, destroying her guards in seconds. At the same time, Hia appears in front of Banaza and Fenris and quickly explains that the monster is actually the hero, whose body is now being controlled by Damelina's, a sorceress who once ruled Clyrode before she was sealed away for using forbidden magic. She says it was the hero pulling the cursed sword that freed her, which makes this mess partly her fault. She asks Banaza's permission to handle it, and he agrees but reminds her that keeping the townspeople safe is her top priority. Across town, the possessed hero prepares to stomp the princess, but Hia steps in and blocks the attack with ease. Recognizing her opponent, Damelina becomes furious and starts hurling spells, but Hia deflects each one effortlessly. Even when Damelina switches up her tactics with a mix of brute force and magic, nothing lands a hit, and Hia calmly reminds her that djinns like her can't be harmed so easily. Trying to shift the tide, Damelina summons dark spirits from the ground, which the hero absorbs to grow even fatter than your mum. Just when things start to look grim, Banaza steps forward and cancels the control spell, causing the monstrous form to vanish and the hero to return to normal. Hia quickly apologizes for letting things escalate, but Banaza doesn't scold her and simply nods in approval. Without wasting time, Hia casts a sealing spell on Damelina, who's too distracted by Banaza's magic to fight back. Her spirit is forced out of the hero's servant and turns into an orb, which Hia swallows to ensure the sorceress never escapes again. Banaza asks if swallowing was truly needed, and she says wasting good stuff like that should be a crime. She then explains that she's absorbed the witch's powers, which she will now use to serve him. As they decide to leave the hero for the castle soldiers, the princess approaches Banaza and formally introduces herself. At first, she thanks him for what he's done for the kingdom. Then she apologizes for the way her father and the hero treated him, promising that the hero will be held accountable. Afterward, she politely asks Banaza to return to the capital and become the true hero of the kingdom. But Banaza gently turns her down, saying that he's not interested in taking sides and just wants to slap Fenris kitty for the rest of his life. After returning home, Blossom, Bilary, and Balarosa gather Banaza and explain their idea to expand the property by buying more land. They say it would give them more space for growing crops and raising magical horses, which would ultimately benefit the household. Curious, Fenris asks Bilary why she prefers magical horses over regular ones, and she admits it's because regular ones are too expensive and hard to maintain, especially for someone with little money. Banaza offers to talk to the landowner himself, but the girls insist on doing it on their own, wanting to take responsibility and show they can handle it. However, once he shows how much money it'll cost them, the girls fall into despair, knowing they'll have to open an OnlyFans account to pay for it. Luckily for them, Banaza considers them a part of this house and offers to pay for them. The girls still want to contribute in some way, so he says they can pay him 30% of the profit they make from the new land, which they happily accept. Later, Banaza advises Blossom to grow rare crops in her fields, even offering his magic to help her. She says she wants to make it without relying on him, so Hia offers to lend her magic instead since she's also a part of this house. Blossom is still against it because she thinks natural growth is better, but Bolano insists they let her try using her magic for good. They ask Bolano why she's dressed in her mage uniform, and she says it's because she's decided to join a magic academy. The girls think she's joining to learn new magic, but she says she was given the role of a teacher instead, which makes them happy. She thanks Banaza for teaching her magic and showing her that it's useful even outside of combat. They turn to Blossom, asking if Hia can use magic on the farm, and she agrees on the condition that they only use it on a small portion so she can compare the results. That evening, everyone starts working on their own thing, and Banaza and Fenris watch as proud parents. Banaza then says he wants to open his own shop one day, and Fenris offers her full support. Just then, Banaza pulls out a ring he created from a stone and offers it to her as a wedding ring, which makes her really happy. Meanwhile, the hero and her servant are locked up in the cells, and he vows to break out and take revenge. That night, Balirosa has a strange dream where she's about to marry Cole and is promised the whole world as a wedding gift. When she wakes up, she wonders why the last man she'd ever like is starring in her dreams, then screams out of frustration. The next morning, while helping Fenris in the kitchen, she looks tired, so Fenris says she must be lovesick. She goes on to explain how her kind often dreams of things they desire, but Balirosa loudly proclaims that she can never fall in love with that monster. Just then, the others walk in and ask her to reveal who's stolen her heart, and when she refuses, they tease her, guessing it must be the Dark One. As she gets increasingly frustrated, they advise her not to be a freaking racist to demons and follow the explain of Banaza, who managed to bag a demon baddie for himself. They then ask Fenris to tell them how they first met, and Hia joins them, saying she's also interested in knowing why she loves Banaza. Fenris tells them that apart from the 8-inch SpongeBob in his square pants, Banaza is incredibly kind and sweet. She also reveals how she was always on guard at first because she wanted to protect Banaza, but once she realized he is stronger than anyone she's known, she decided to ease around him. Just then, Banaza walks in, embarrassed that Fenris is talking about his softer side. Just then, they see someone entering the barrier, and Hia notes that a demon is close by. Meanwhile, at the castle, the princess is informed that the gold coins Banaza donated were the same kind reserved for the royal court. Surprised, she learns Banaza received them when he was banished to De La Veza, meaning he's the same Banaza they once cast out. Realizing their mistake, the princess says they need to properly apologize to the real hero by providing him with a harem of gothic throat goats. Just then, a soldier rushes in to report that the fake hero and his servant Suya have escaped from prison. She orders them to be caught, but the guards come up empty because they are bush camping like they're playing Fortnite. Once the coast is clear, the hero starts whining about being treated like a criminal, but Suya points out that he literally is one since he stole a magical bag from the treasury. When they open it, they only find a water pouch and a treasure chest, but the chest contains nothing but a shovel. The hero screams in frustration and draws attention, but before the guards reach them, he quickly digs a hole with the shovel and jumps in, not realizing it's too deep to climb back out. Meanwhile, Uliminaz reports to Gol that Banaza is nowhere to be found. She urges him to continue the invasion, but Chal says the purification spell is still active, and sending troops now would be a one-way mission. She suggests corrupting the soil to clear a path, but Joel still refuses, saying he can't risk lives when Banaza alone could destroy them if he sides with the humans. When Uliminaz warns that others may rise against him for this hesitation, Gol rises with an aura, which makes her think she's crossed the line. However, he walks up to her and pats her head gently, saying he understands her concern. A demon named Fufun overhears everything and runs to inform Uagard, Gol's younger brother. Angry that Gol has grown soft, Uagard declares that he will challenge his brother for the throne. The next day in town, Banaza and Fenris finish their business and decide to have lunch when they notice an old store closing down. They learn that during the last battle, the owner's workshop and trade routes were destroyed, and she doesn't have it in her to start all over again. On their way back, they run into Balirosa, who offers to treat them because she earned some money at the guild, and Fenris hesitantly agrees. Soon after, Hia appears and warns that a strong demon is approaching. Fenris recognizes Cole and stops Hia before she does anything. Cole joins them for lunch, which annoys Balirosa to no end. During the meal, Cole admits he's been searching for them because the barrier around town confirmed Banaza's presence. He also says he visits human towns regularly to observe them, which makes Balirosa furious. when she accuses him of spying. Gaul admits it, but calmly explains that humans aren't as innocent as they think because they would hurt demons on sight. Hia adds that the real problem is that most demons can't control the malicium they naturally release, which harms humans. Gaul also points out that many demons are violent by nature, making peaceful coexistence almost impossible. After his grim explanation, he apologizes for ruining the mood and quietly leaves. Later, while walking home with the girls, Banaza reflects on what Gaul said. He used to believe this world was better than the one he came from because demi-humans were treated equally, but now he sees that the war against demons isn't so different from the discrimination he thought he left behind. With a heavy heart, he hugs Fenris from behind and tells her how much she means to him. Fenris, understanding his emotions, stays still and just absorbs the moment with a smile. The next morning, while Banaza enjoys breakfast with the others, they all praise Fenris' cooking skills. She gives the credit to her teacher, Mileno, revealing she thanked her personally because her cooking lessons got her laid. Just then, Princess Elizabeth shows up and surprises both him and Fenris by calling him by his real name instead of his alias Fleo. They invite her inside, and once Bellerosa serves tea, the princess asks everyone to leave because she wishes to speak to Banaza alone. Fenris instantly refuses, saying anything that concerns her husband can be said in front of her, and the kingdom has already mistreated her enough. After Banaza supports her, the princess gives in. And while the others leave, Fenris stays with just the two of them. She kneels down and sincerely apologizes to Banaza for the way he was treated after being summoned. But Banaza calmly tells her he holds no grudge and asks what brings her here. She pulls out a map, spreads it across the table, and shows him where the kingdom's forces are stationed. Banaza finds it strange that she's sharing something so important with someone who isn't even part of her circle, so she explains the situation. The effects of the purification spell are wearing off, and the kingdom's mages are still too weak to cast another. Troops have been sent to defend various towns, but there simply aren't enough soldiers to protect them all. That's why she's come to ask for his help. Fenris gets mad and says the princess has no right to drag Banaza into their war, especially after they treated him like a nutsock. Trying to calm the situation, the princess says her father will soon recover, and if nothing is done, might try to hunt Banaza down. Fenris thinks she's threatening them, but the princess says she's trying to protect him. She then reveals that she plans to force her father to step down and face the consequences for everything he's done. Fenris, not quite following, starts to think Elizabeth is using her husband to get the throne, but Banaza gently tells her to calm down. Elizabeth then explains that by trusting him with the location of her forces, she hopes to prove to everyone that he's not allied with the Dark Army. Doing this would make it clear that her father was wrong about him and help her gain the support she needs to take the throne. The princess thanks him for understanding and begs him to protect the innocent townsfolk. Elsewhere, the hero and Soya finally manage to escape from their pursuers, but Suya starts crying because she's hungry. The hero, in a rare act of kindness, gives her one of their 2 remaining biscuits. He's surprised that she's decided to stick with him after everything, but Suya feels the same way, saying he could have easily pumped and dumped her as well. Just before their romance gets anywhere, Fufun appears and kidnaps them. That night, Banaza tells Fenris that he wants to make this world a better place before he has children, and Fenris supports his decision to keep his willy wrapped for now. A few days later, the villagers on the outskirts begin fleeing to safer places due to the threat of the Dark Army's attacks. In the forest, a little girl picking nuts doesn't realize danger is close until Banaza and Fenris, both in disguise, appear just in time. Banaza creates a strong barrier to block the demons and tells the girl to run. Fenris asks why he didn't take the reward for helping, and Banaza says it's because it would mean he sided with the humans. One of the demons notices that Fenris is also a demon and angrily demands to know why she's fighting against them. Banaza answers that she's his partner and warns them that if they attack, he won't hold back. Fenris advises them to retreat since they can't break the barrier, but instead, they make way for their leader. The leader, a bulky Cyclops who Fenris recognizes as one of Yugard's top fighters, mocks her entire race and even insults her brother's death. To prove that her race is never to be looked down upon, Fenris asks Banaza to let her handle him, and once he agrees, she steps through the barrier and begins her attack. The Cyclops tries to crush her with his massive club, but she dodges easily and gives him mild scratches. When he asks if this is all she's got, she says she's holding back on purpose because Banaza doesn't approve of abuse of power. Then she jumps into the air, uses a spell to swap places with him, which causes the Cyclops to throw his club at her. She switches again and makes him crash face first into the club he just threw. With another spell, she pulls some trees out and uses them to pin him to the ground. Enraged, the Cyclops orders the other demons to charge, but Banaza casts a spell that freezes them in midair. He tells Fenris she doesn't need to keep fighting, then heals the wounded Cyclops with magic. Once he's done, he asks the demons to leave, but the Cyclops doesn't understand why Banaza is letting them go. Banaza explains that he wants to be friends with more demons, not just Fenris, but adds that he'll show them his full power if they force his hand. That's enough to scare them off, and they flee the forest. Banaza lowers the barrier, and Fenris praises him for using the bombastic side-eye she taught him at home. After they leave, Fenris asks him why he didn't torture them, and he says it's because he wants to reduce tensions between the two races. Soon after, the villagers arrive along with the young girl they saved, and they wonder why a demon is with him. He reveals she's his partner, which shows them that demons and humans are not enemies. They thank Banaza for protecting them, but Banaza tells them to thank the princess instead, since she's the one who sent him. After that, he hops on Fenris's back and heads toward the next village to help more people. Soon after, the princess learns of a masked adventurer who has been repelling the Dark Army with a wolf, and the man simply leaves without saying his name. Furthermore, he tells everyone that the princess sent him, so she immediately realizes it's Banaza and Fenris. Happy that the guy accepted her request, she vows to pay him back with a royal sloppy toppy later. Meanwhile, Gaul continues observing Banaza from afar when Greenel arrives with troubling news about his brother's rebellion. At the same time, Fufun presents the hero and Suya to Ugard, who plans to sacrifice them to the evil god in exchange for power to overthrow Gaul. As they prepare for the ritual, Ugard eagerly anticipates Gaul's arrival. Soon after, Gaul arrives at Banaza's place and asks if he can stay for a while. Banaza, confused, asks what's going on, and Joel finally tells him about his brother's rebellion. When Greenel told him that Ugard had taken the throne, Gaul rushed to the castle, while Alimi Naz went to the remaining Infernal Four to ask for help. They refuse, saying Gaul needed to face the truth that he had drifted too far from their original purpose. Left with no support, Ulimi Naz stormed into the throne room and tried to strike Ugard, but her claws shattered the moment they touched his skin. Ugard didn't even react, and with a single punch, he slammed her into the wall, leaving her barely able to move. At that moment, Gaul arrived with Greenel and told her to get Ulimi Naz to safety while he handled the situation. Ugard challenged him to a duel, but Jarl said he had no interest in fighting. Ugard argued that he had no choice, pointing out that their people had supported the duel and believed Gaul had grown too soft. When Gaul asked what they were unhappy about, Ugard accused him of wasting time with humans and refusing to send troops to war. Fufun added that many had started to question his loyalty. Cole then asked if Ugard had ordered the recent attacks, and Ugard proudly admitted it, calling it the perfect opportunity to seize control. When Gaul turned to the Infernal Four and asked if they agreed with Ugard, their silence gave him the answer. As his energy began to rise, everyone thought he was finally going to fight, but instead, Gaul removed his demon ring and tossed it to his brother, saying he was stepping down because there was no point in leading a people who no longer believed in him. As he turned to walk away, Ugard demanded a fight, and Joel responded with one brutal kick that sent him flying through several walls into the abyss. He then apologized to the Infernals, saying the kick was payback for what happened to Ulimi Naz. Back in the present, Banaza and Fenris are stunned by his story. Just then, Balarosa walks into the room and nearly faints when she sees Cole sitting there. Banaza casually says he's thinking of letting them stay, and Balarosa freezes. After a moment, she joins the others, still tense. As Gaul explains himself, he says he's no longer the Dark One, and that he left the demon realm because staying there no longer felt right. Blossom asks why the demon army attacked if he had already stepped down, and Fenris quickly clarifies that the order came from Ugard, not Gaul. Hearing that and Joel's promise not to fight humans puts everyone at ease. Fenris then asks how Gaul, once a king, is suddenly broke. Ulimi Naz explains he gave away all his wealth to loyal followers before leaving. Banaza turns to the others and asks if they're okay with Gaul and Ulimi Naz living with them. Everyone agrees, except Balarosa, who doesn't want to live under the same roof as the Dark One, but after a little emotional push from Fenris, she reluctantly gives in. The next day, Gaul, feeling restless, offers to help around. He tries joining Blossom in the fields, but she declines. Then he heads to the stables to help Larry, only to scare the horses, so she kicks him out. Finally, he finds Banaza in the workshop and decides to hang out with him instead. As they talk, Fenris and Ulimi Naz peek from the hallway. Ulimi Naz grumbles about how fast they're getting along, but Fenris simply reminds her that Gaul can do whatever he wants now. That evening, while the others eat and laugh together, Balarosa stays quiet and distant. After everyone goes to bed, she walks onto the balcony, where Banaza and Fenris find her. They bring her tea and snacks and gently ask what's bothering her. Banaza guesses it's about Gaul, and she admits she's not comfortable living with a demon. Banaza reassures her she doesn't have to pretend to like him and suggests she just keep her distance if it helps her feel at peace. His calm words seem to help, and the next day, she approaches Gaul and tells him she still doesn't trust him, but will keep an eye on him. Gaul sees it as progress and offers a handshake, but she turns it down, saying he'll have to earn that first. Meanwhile, back in the demon castle, the hero and Suya manage to escape from Fufun and are now running for their lives. While Ugard sits in the demon realm, he's fuming over how the humans keep winning battle after battle and demands Fufun explain what's going on. She calmly tells him that the humans have set up powerful traps that block their advance, but he tells them to bring an even bigger army that no trap can slow down. As he gets up to leave, he randomly greets Fufun like a housewife. The three Infernals, who have been quietly watching, talk among themselves the moment Ugard walks out. They mention how there's no way they're winning this war with a leader who only knows how to charge blindly. Another point out that morale is already in the gutter, and if they don't do something soon, the whole army might fall apart. Just then, Fufun stumbles back in and tells them not to worry because she has a plan, but first, they need to hold a social gathering to increase morale. A few days later, Banaza and Fenris visit the town, and she wins a prize, a trip to the hot springs. She gets all giddy, thinking it'll finally be just her and Banaza alone, and they can finally break some beds. But her joy dies immediately when she finds out the voucher is for families of 3 or more, not couples. She tries to switch it out, but Banaza insists they should go as a group so everyone can enjoy a break together. Later, as they walk to the hot spring, Fenris looks sad until she learns that hot springs boost fertility. Fenris starts picturing herself holding Banaza's baby and gets all fired up again. As soon as they check into the inn, she corners one of the workers and quietly asks where that specific hot spring is. The staff member gives her a map with a kind smile and wishes her good luck on getting her kitty slapped. Meanwhile, the girls start changing into the yukatas provided by the inn. On their way to the changing rooms, Blossom accidentally bumps into Ugard, who's disguised as a human. She apologizes, but gets freaked out when she sees his cold, menacing expression. Luckily, Fufun jumps in and calms the situation before his cover gets blown. After Blossom leaves, Ugard starts complaining about Fufun letting her go, but she begs him not to cause a scene and reminds him of their real mission. She also hands him a necklace that suppresses his malicium, which finally calms him down. As they walk past, Gol, Olimi Naz, and Fenris spot the disguised demons, and Joel, being his usual clueless self, thinks it's a good idea to go say hi. Fenris nearly loses it and tells him that coming face to face with his brother will only end in a confrontation, and if that ruins her chances of getting clapped by Banaza, she will clap then instead. As the others settle in, Fenris embraces Banaza and gently asks him to go with her to the fertility hot spring. Hia tries to tag along, but Fenris gets right up in her face and tells her she'll chew on her bones if she interferes, which causes her to back off. When they arrive at the spring, Fenris tries to drag Banaza into the women's bath, but thankfully he puts his foot down and refuses. Instead, they both sit near the wall separating the baths and talk through it. As they chat, Banaza tells her that once all this mess is over, he'll make time to plan their honeymoon properly, and that one comment makes her really happy. Meanwhile, the squad gets together to have food, and Balirosa keeps glancing at Dole. Blossom thinks she's into the Dark One and presses her to sit with him, but Balirosa says she's keeping an eye because she does not trust him. Blossom then calls out to Gol, and the guy immediately compliments Balirosa's dress, which makes her kitty moist. However, this makes Olimi Naz feel a little jealous. As they exit, Balirosa and she begin talking, and she declares her utmost loyalty to Gol, making Baliros realize that Olimi Naz is in love with him. Back at the inn, Ugard's group is eating lunch, and he demands some entertainment because he's bored out of his mind. Fufun tries dancing, but she's so bad at it that Ugard punches her again just to make her stop. With her out of commission, 2 other demons try to lighten the mood with a roast battle, but it quickly turns into a fistfight between the 2 demons, which causes their malachum to leak. At that exact moment, the hero and Suya arrive at the inn, hoping they can finally relax in the hot springs after all that running. Since they need some money, he pulls out a jewel he stole from the demon treasury. As he admires it, the jewel suddenly begins to suck in all the malicium being released by the 2 brawling demons. Before he can react, they crash through the wall and land right in front of him, making him drop the jewel in shock. By the time Fufun runs in and screams for them to stop, the jewel has absorbed all the surrounding malicium and attaches itself to the hero, who starts screaming as it fuses with his body and covers him in a black, corrupted aura. Soon enough, the whole building begins to collapse, so Banaza quickly uses his magic to keep it stable. He tells Fenris to go find out what's happening, and she leaps over the wall without even bothering to put her clothes back on. From outside, Balirosa and the others spot the giant creature that's now rampaging through the inn. Gol takes one look and says the monster is made of pure malicium. Olimi Naz points out the glowing jewel around its neck and explains it's designed to amplify malicium absorption. Balirosa wants to rush in and help everyone inside, but Joel tells them it's better to stay out of it because Banaza can handle the situation. Still, the girls refuse to stand by and insist on helping, which makes Gol rethink his stance. Inspired by their courage, he turns to Olimi Naz and asks if she wants to help Banaza. She recalls how, when he was the Dark One, he never asked for her opinion, but now he's acting like a gentleman. Together, they teleport straight to the roof of the inn, just as Fenris arrives from the other side. The Infernals immediately spot Joel and start calling out to him, which grabs Ugard's attention. Furious that his brother is here again, he charges straight toward the roof and throws down a challenge, demanding that Joel fight him right there and then. Balirosa sees Cole and Uragard on the roof and instantly assumes Cole has betrayed them, so she hurries off to the bathhouse to warn Banaza. At the same time, Uragard starts throwing punches at his brother, but Joel calmly blocks the attacks with a spell, which only makes Uragard angrier. Meanwhile, Balirosa finds Banaza and quickly tells him about the demons gathering on the roof, including Gol, who she believes is working with them. Banaza assures her that Gol isn't the type to betray them and decides to hold the inn together with his magic, while the brothers sort it out. Back at the inn, the Militium-powered monster attacks Gol, but he protects himself and tells the Ulimi Naz that Uragard has the power to control Militium. Ulimi Naz figures that the best way to stop him is by separating the hero from the jewel, which is clearly boosting the monster's powers, so Fenris takes on the job and punches the hero out of the jewel. As soon as the jewel separates, the Militium monster vanishes and Suya, who is caught in the mess, finds herself floating just above the ground. Afterward, Gol calmly tells Ulimi Naz to stop the others from getting involved, while the brothers duke it out on the roof. When she gets to the other demons, they assure her that they have no intention of stepping in since it's clearly a battle between brothers. On the roof, Uragard continues throwing wild punches, but Joel has a spell active that reflects all of them back to Uragard. Frustrated, he powers up and starts hitting even harder. After taking some damage, Call grabs Uragard's face to shut him up and uses a spell to seal away his powers, which leaves him completely helpless. Furious about losing his abilities, Uragard starts dropping slurs while the inn staff on the ground watch in horror, worried that the fight might restart again. Trying to prevent more destruction, the manager orders the staff to bring out their talismans, and the moment they throw them, the talismans wrap around Uragard and his crew like ropes and teleport them out of the building. At the same time, Fenris is still slapping the bejesus out of the hero over and over again, and when Ulimi Naz asks what she's doing, she casually says she's trying to get rid of any leftover Militium. Balirosa then runs over and tells her that Banaza wants everyone away from the building so he can repair it, and as soon as Fenris hears that, she drops the hero and backs off. Banaza casts a spell that restores the inn to how it was, and once the building is stable again, everyone helps clean up the place and assist the injured. Some of the staff also chase after the hero and Suya, who are trying to sneak away, and the guy digs another hole to hide. Once everything settles, the manager thanks Banaza and his friends for all their help and tells them to enjoy the rest of their stay. Fenris is especially excited because now she can finally get her cookie eaten by Banaza. At night, as the girls have fun in the fertility spring, Ulimi Naz joins them and notices that Balirosa's chug jugs are way bigger compared to hers, which makes her jealous. As the girls play around, Banaza and Joel relax in the men's bath and talk about stuff, acknowledging Banaza's kindness towards all races. Call says he's ready to help Banaza bridge the gap between humans and demons, and Banaza agrees that working together might be their best shot at lasting peace. After their bath, everyone gathers for a big dinner, and one of the waitresses gives Fenris an eel pie known for giving people lots of energy that'll help her go on for 7 rounds in a row. As they dig in, Balirosa approaches Cole and quietly thanks him for saving everyone from his brother. Later that night, when most of the house is asleep, Banaza and Fenris sit outside under the moonlight. He asks her how she feels about humans, and she admits that she's grown fond of them, especially after spending so much time with him and the girls. When she asks why he brought it up, Banaza says it's because he needs her by his side if they're going to make peace between both races. Fenris tells him she's ready to support him in any way she can because that's what a good wife should do. After that, they get caught in the moment and share a kiss before bumping uglies on the Ingawa. The next day, as the group heads back home, the girls can't help but notice how Fenris is glowing with happiness, which is enough to make everyone guess what probably happened. A few days later, life at Banaza's house slowly returns to normal, and each of the girls continues with the hobbies they enjoy most. Bilana becomes a magic teacher, Blossom works on her farm with Hia's help, Bilary takes care of the horses, and Balirosa sticks with her job as an adventurer. She even becomes the official tester for all the weapons and armor Banaza and Joel create in their free time, always offering useful feedback whenever she comes home from a mission. Soon enough, Princess Elizabeth officially takes the throne and asks her advisor to capture her father, who possibly fled the kingdom after losing the crown. Meanwhile, the hero and Suya are still wanted and continue to hide from the soldier. Back at the farm, Fenris calls everyone in for dinner, and Banaza feels proud of the family he's built in such a short time. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you made it to the end, comment, "I love feet" as proof.